Well, thank you so much for joining me, Julie Erickson. This is Julie Alexander with the Handcrafted Therapy Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, Julie.
Thank you.
We're going to call this episode Julie Squared because the power of Julie is amazing. It's got to be incredible. So I'm super excited that you're with us, Julie. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
So how did you, Julie, get to where you are today? Where did you come from?
Like from the very beginning, I came from Montana and I went to massage school in Seattle in the early 90s. And I graduated Seattle Massage School in 1992.
So you were like 10 when you graduated.
Thank you. I was a baby, but I was 21.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. What drew you to massage school?
I always enjoyed doing it at home for my family, little back rubs and things. And my grandma would give me quarters. And my uncle said I really was good. Like I could find all the knots in his shoulders. I enjoyed doing it, but I didn't really understand that it was something you could do as an occupation. And I wanted to be an architect. So as I embarked on my college education, I went to 2 years of college. I got an associate's degree. I wanted to go on to architectural school, but I thought, I'm not going to flip burgers or wait tables while I do that. So why don't I do something different and that maybe has more opportunity, something I'm interested in. So that's about the time I learned that a person could really do massage for a job. And I went to massage school for 1 year thinking that 1 year would educate me to do that so I could further, put myself through architecture school that way. But by the time I exited massage school, I had no interest in sitting in a cubicle or in front of a computer. And the fun part about architecture for me was the creativity of having the ruler and the pencil and the drafting board, but things were changing to computer-based programming at that time. And that didn't interest me at all. So I dropped that idea and stuck with massage, and I've loved it ever since.
That's incredible. I love that story. I used to work on my family too when I was a kid. So, it's kind of fun to develop that into a very professional business, to be frank. It feels a little strange to do something that you did kind of as a hobby or for fun as a child and turn it into a profession. You and I both have done that, and it's pretty incredible. So once you went to massage school, then what happened after you decided to become a therapist?
My first job right out of massage school, I stayed in Seattle and I worked at a chiropractic clinic for 1 year. And then I saw the opportunity to go to the Virgin Islands. So I jumped on that because I also love to travel. So that's another reason that massage therapy was an attractive career for me, because you can really do it anywhere. I signed a contract for 6 months in the Virgin Islands, and at 3 months, I broke my contract and left at 4. So it was a challenge for me, but it was a very unique experience, and I was able to work on a lot of people during that time. I was in a very busy resort environment. And I went home to mommy to recover from that trauma, and so had my own business for a short time in Montana. Was ready for a move again after about a year. And I went to Arizona and worked there for 3 years in the Phoenix area. After that, I moved back to Seattle. And that's when I found my most favorite job ever, working for a couple who really ran a very nice clinic and took good care of their clients and therapists. That was great. And during that time, I started dating the person who is now my husband. We got married. He was just beginning his Air Force career. So we spent a year in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, while he did pilot training. Then he was stationed in North Dakota for 4 winters. Then from there, we went to England for 4 years, Germany for 3. I was able to work in all of those places in different capacities, and then back to Oklahoma to end his Air Force career. And from there, we moved here. So we've been here since 2017.
What a journey. You kind of traveled, made your way around the globe. Are you planning to stay here for a while?
He loves his job here. So if everything stays according to our plan, 10 more years in Texas, and then we have the rest of the world to see. That's my desire. When he retires, then I might be ready to retire and just start traveling and enjoying space. But maybe, there may be interesting capacities in which to do that. Maybe I don't have to give up massage entirely, or massage education, or wellness education.
I have a question about your story. And if you don't want to share this, please tell me you don't want to share it. But what happened in the Virgin Islands?
Oh, it was a very beautiful place. And it's so wonderful to go to a place like that as a visitor and a tourist and a part-timer. But to live there was something else entirely. And it was challenging in many ways. And it became very clear that after the peak tourist season, there was no money to be made. So there was no point in me staying longer than the busyness of the season required, right? So they said as soon as Easter was over, it got really slow there. It got hot. The scuba diving isn't as good after that time, So I felt like I was being a little bit tricked and manipulated when I wasn't given all the pertinent information when I signed the contract. That's why we chose to let it. And I say we because my coworker and I decided together that we were going to leave because neither one of us wanted to stay and face the ramification without the other one there.
Yeah.
So we kind of we did a pinky swear, made a deal that we would leave together.
Nice.
So that was good. It was really a beautiful place and it was an interesting experience, but it was very challenging and it wasn't like real horrible trauma, but for little old me who was sheltered in her young life, it was quite shocking.
If you would like to share, what kind of a lesson did you learn out of this and how can our listeners learn something from this?
Even though I had a very detailed contract, which I looked over and signed ahead of time, there were still things that I didn't know that I assumed. So really try to think of every possibility, I guess. Maybe talk to someone who's done it before. There was a colleague of mine who had been there the previous year as well. And she said, "Oh, I wish you would have called me. I would have told you everything you needed to know." So there are people out there. I wouldn't have known how to find her at that time, but there are people who are willing to share their experiences with you. And, I also thought that I wanted to maybe work on a cruise ship. You hear that from a lot of people, but as soon as I explored that, I realized, no, that is not for me because it doesn't come with all the perks that you think it's going to come with. And it's hard work. And maybe you're not surrounded with the best people who have your back. So,
well, thank you for sharing that. I think there are lessons for everybody in situations and stories like that. Unfortunately, we all have stories of unfortunate employers that have done things, that aren't exactly the best moral situations. And
exactly.
I think, as an employee, we have to learn from those things and listen to each other. And like you said, reach out to people that I mean, fortunately now with social media and the internet, you could probably find somebody that has done that job pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
Through those channels. And if you can't, you can always post on massage groups on Facebook, because I know there's a lot of massage groups that are very active and answer lots of questions like this. Here. So thank you for sharing that. Recently, we've talked about your new journal. Can you talk about your path to creating such a beautiful book and how that changed your life and what we can do to talk about that and get other people to understand what the purpose is and why to buy it and all of it. Tell us
why use the journal at all and why use this journal, right?
Yes.
The journal journey, it's been building since the beginning of my massage career, maybe even since before that. So just an increase in awareness of my own self, my own body, the connection between my body and mind, which, to be frank, I thought was kind of woo-woo a long time ago. And really, I mean, I was just an innocent little child at the beginning of my massage career, and I didn't know a lot of things. And even to say the word body was somehow seemed a little bit scary or vulgar coming out of my mouth. And it shouldn't be that way at all. We shouldn't be intimidated by these words. So part of it is just my growth out of that and blossoming into who I've become as a more mature adult and an experienced massage therapist. The awareness of what our bodies are trying to tell us and listening to that is an important piece of life. And all of the clients who've been on my table, who have told me their stories, good or bad, happy or sad, sometimes I can tell where their pain is coming from emotionally before they do. And of course, my scope of practice is limited. So I'm not a talk therapist. I can't guide them through certain things, but I can give them little tips and say, oh, well, did you know that every time I work on your big toe, you talk about your mom? Or, certain things that you observe, and just how can I reach out to more people, and is there anything I can do as a massage therapist to help people become even more aware of themselves? People come in with, they might say my back hurts, but they can't tell me where their back hurts. They can't tell me if it's low back, middle back, upper back. They just say my back hurts. So that's one thing that is simple. You think a person should be able to tell you if it's the right shoulder, and some people just can't. They're just in pain, and so everything else is blocked out, or they can't handle different aspects of life because they're in pain. Where's the pain coming from? Is there anything that you found to help yourself feel more comfortable in life? People don't even stop to think about that, do they? Even just filling out our SOAP charts, some people don't know how to answer you if you're asking them initial intake questions. So that's where part of that came from. And then also when I met my friend Kim, who is the co-creator of this journal, she is a Tibetan medicine practitioner. Let's say that, a doctor of Tibetan medicine. And when I met her, she was training for this. So she was excited about sharing with me all of her experiences as she went through her training, which was a really cool time to get to know her. And we had other things in common at that point in life. So she was a good person. And when I plugged into her, she really confirmed with me all of this, the connection between my mind, body, and spirit, and what can come out of that, how it can have transformative powers when you recognize it, how you can maybe even heal yourself at times using different things as healing modalities. All kinds of things can work, right? And not one thing is right for everybody. We all know that. As I asked her questions, she would always give me a confirmation and then say, and then also you need to know about this. So I feel like my awareness just got much more huge talking to her and learning from her. So that was an important part of my growth as a therapist and an individual with my own body and my body-mind connection. So when we first moved here to Texas, I was having some quiet time in the morning, as was my routine at that phase of my existence, as I was getting used to life here in Texas. And I was sitting outside and I had this idea, just a journal where we can document and track how our bodies feel, like you would in a SOAP chart as a therapist, but put it in the hands of the client, of everybody and the ordinary person, and make it easy so that they want to journal. Make it interesting, colorful, simple. Journaling doesn't have to take an hour. And also at the time I was being encouraged to journal for myself, but people were directing me toward these complicated methods of journaling that I was not interested in taking on, and that didn't speak to my spirit or my gifts. So then it would be too much of a struggle. It's much easier to journal for different people. Different people have different ways of journaling and ease. And for someone who's never journaled before, I think it can be quite overwhelming. They talk about bullet journals, but when I researched that, it, that was even complicated. And you think it should be just really simple, like pop, 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 write some bullet points down, but it got really in depth. And I don't want anyone to feel overwhelmed when they're journaling, because it should be a freeing experience, and it should be something that makes them happy because they're unloading something or uncovering something, exploring something in their bodies, getting in touch with themselves. So that's why this picture came into my head at that moment. And I wrote it all down. I called Kim. I said, here's my idea. She said, great. It also needs this and this and this. She got it. She was on board, and we've been working on it together since then. And then it sat for a while because neither one of us know how to publish anything. So once we got a publisher, everything went really quickly, and here we are. So here's our finished product. And I think it's great because it's every page on the left is blank, and that is for your own creativity. Do whatever you want with that page. Use it as a bullet journal if you want. And then the page on the right, we have some prompts that are colorful and simple and almost cartoon-like, and they're easy to use and should be somewhat self-explanatory. So you can just fill them out as you want. You don't have to do every piece of it every day, but it can take you as little as 10 minutes a day. And by the time you get to the end of the journal, hopefully you've discovered something about yourself. Your awareness has increased, and your connection, mind, body, spirit connection is growing, and you're feeding. Even just yesterday, I had a client who talked about feeding her soul. And it was a very interesting, cool, inspiring conversation. And so we can feed our soul by just observing ourselves and discovering what's important to us and what makes us healthier and happier. Sorry, that was a lot of talking, but that's the answer.
I love it. How long did it take you to get from the time you discovered that's what you wanted to do until it was actually in your hands?
From September 2017 till December of 2023. Wow. But for 90% of that time, it just sat as sketches in my little file box on the side of my desk.
Yeah.
So I put it together in, 2 hours. And then with Kim's help, we worked on a little bit more, a couple more hours. And then we just didn't know I would write it down every year as one of my goals, get that journal published. And finally, one year I'd had enough. We call it this healthy level of disgust. I was just disgusted with myself enough that I still hadn't gotten it done, that I found a way to make it happen.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. So that was in April of 23. So finding a publisher in April of 23 and then working with her through the whole project, that got us published in December of 23.
Okay.
So what is that, 8 months?
Wow, that's awesome. So I love the idea as a massage therapist. Obviously, I love the idea of reconnecting my client's mind and body. I know as a therapist, most of us listening are probably preaching that to our clients every single day when they come in. Tell me what's wrong. Tell me what I'm working on today. What's going on? What have you done since the last time I've seen you? How have you screwed up your bodies? And I think the most frustrating thing as a therapist is when the client is disconnected from their body and they say, well, I don't know, you'll figure it out. Everything hurt. And I just love,
they want you to fix them. That word fix that we maybe
just
stay away from.
Me. I'm broken all over. Just fix me. I'm so stressed. Everything hurts. You'll find it. You're good. Well, yeah, but do you want to use your whole hour for me looking for the problem, or should you just tell me what's wrong so I can go directly there, fix it, and move on if I need to, or spend the whole hour on the problem? I mean, we have more options when we have more information.
Yes, exactly. Help me help you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a common problem amongst massage therapists and their clients is this constant communication with them about their own bodies. And I realized in some sessions that I know more about their body than they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
You could feel something. You could feel all kinds of things, tightness in the hips, for example. And then they're just saying, but it's my knees that hurt. So you want to get them to be aware that, well, maybe your knees are hurting because there's an issue with your hip. So many examples.
Yes, it's true. And, that specific example, I have a couple of clients who have knee problems, and I worked their hips, found the problem in the hips, corrected the hips, and the knee problem goes away. And they just feel like I'm a miracle worker, but if we were to explore that a little deeper in a journaling session, for instance, I do think that they would consciously then be aware of the fact that, the hip is actually hurting too. Or, when I move this way, I can feel the hip pull when my knee goes to the right or to the left or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. So I really dig this idea. And so you had mentioned when you talked about your journal that you've seen some people, or maybe you yourself have experienced this, where you have a physical pain or discomfort, and you've been able to journal about it and actually mentally let that relax and go away. Can you tell me more about your experience with that?
I think that can happen in many different ways. Like, back to Kim, she encouraged me to talk to my body when it was uncomfortable. And why is that? Why are you feeling this way? Do you feel like I'm not protecting you? And it sounds, again, to use the phrase woo-woo, it sounds a little bit crazy, but it can really work. So when you're writing it down, also, that makes another physical and mental, a neural connection, right? And it kind of helps to establish or solidify things or a decision that we're making, or remember, because sometimes I forget, I had this epiphany on Tuesday, but by Friday I forgot what it was. So you might want to write something down as you discover it about yourself. And maybe it's that, I think my neck has been tight because it's still trying to protect me from that car accident I had 2 months ago. Why don't I go ahead and tell my neck that it can relax now and let go, because that time is past and it can relax, it's safe. So it sounds crazy, but if you have a chat with your body, that's part of it. And then writing it down is part of it, just increasing your awareness. Does that answer your question a little bit?
A little bit. Yeah. Yeah. Have you experienced this yourself?
I have. But again, it just sort of, the way I learn is like, I just sort of absorb the information into myself, and then it becomes the way I am, the way I live after that. So it's hard for me so writing it down is good for me, because then I have a record of writing it down. Oh, that happened in November when I discovered this situation. And then ever since then, I've been able to fill in the blank, move more easily, or not get so upset about this other thing, or not be blocked to my pain. Like, I am aware of it. I've noticed it. It's all part of the self-discovery, right? So the journaling is a piece of that.
Awesome. I love that. I think more and more people definitely need that encouragement. And I think you're right. People are confused on how to journal. I know I've gone to a counselor for years, and she has told me more than once that I need a journal, and I have not done it. I mean, she even says, just put a notepad by your bed and write down things that keep you up at night. Cause that's my inner monologue. At the end of the day, I'm rethinking everything that's happened and conversations and things that I should have said or should have done or whatever, right? The anxiety and the inner monologue that I have just going. And she's like, just write it down on the blank page and then close it or fold the paper and put it away. So you won't forget about it because it's written down, but you can let it go for now.
Yeah.
And I've done it a couple times, but I'm not good at doing it.
When you do it, do you feel like it helps? Or do you remember?
It's such a long time since I actually did it.
Yeah.
And I did it not consistently. I maybe did it once or twice and I was like, this is dumb. I'll be fine.
I'd rather not.
I'd rather not.
Yeah. I find that to be incredibly useful. Like even at the beginning of my day, I might write down my little schedule like this because I don't have a big paper binder anymore for a schedule because everything's on my phone or my desktop. But I might just have a quick little list of the things that I need to do and then the other things I need to remember to do. And as an ULA coach, that's another side gig of mine. We've learned to put a little divider on your page and do the things you have, all the little things that you have to do during the day on one side of the paper. And then the things that are going to get you to your goals, the more important things that are going to be life-changing, you give yourself 3 of those tasks to do per day. And it could be something as simple as finding a phone number for the veterinarian but something that's going to get you forward. Maybe veterinarian is not the best example, but find the phone number for the lawyer that you need to complete your will and testament, right? Something. But that is also why we have our blank piece of paper, our blank side of our journal, because that can be used as kind of working through that dialogue, your inner dialogue, like you said, before you go to bed, or your to-do list for the next day. You can jot it down so that you can go to sleep with a clear mind. And I find that really, really effective for myself to just write it down so that it's not spinning around in your mind all night. And then you can concentrate on just deep breathing yourself to a nice, relaxing sleep, hopefully.
That sounds fantastic.
And maybe a little less stress the next day.
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody has some level of anxiety in our world. And I think being aware of why it's there rather than just ignoring it is probably more beneficial, because I feel like it's like a snowball effect. You know, if you ignore it, it's not going to go away. It's just going to get worse.
Yes. When you block it out, it's going to find a way to come to the surface, and it might not be comfortable. It might be even less comfortable later than it is now.
Right. Well, and it manifests itself physically in ways that your massage therapist then will find.
Yeah. And there are a lot of people still do not even believe that there can be a connection between emotion settling into the body. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. Emotional, I think physical and emotional goes hand in hand. You know, I mean, that's why we have trauma touch therapy. Shout out to Renee Houston for that. You know, I mean, what an incredible, modality. I don't know if you know anything about this, but it's pretty awesome. I experienced it for the first time just about a month ago, where, I had a traumatic situation with my family where we almost lost somebody in our family. And anyway, long story short, she found my spot where I was really angry. And as soon as she held on to that spot, I had an emotional release. Now, I'm not one of those people that are woo-woo, okay? And I have no problem with woo-woo people because these are my people. But I tend to be very science-based, very I've walked out of energy classes before because I just thought it was too you're holding your hands over somebody's leg expecting results. That's crazy. But all that to say, I embrace that side because I know that there's some science to it. I might not understand it myself or I'm not drawn to it, but that doesn't mean it's not relevant and it's not real, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can work. It can be effective. Yeah. I remember back to my time with Kim when I first met her. We were living in Germany at the time. And I had a shock and a disappointment one day And it occurred to me that if I hang on, if I don't work through this right now, it's going to come back and get me later. So I talked to Kim right away and I said, I need to come and have you work on me because I don't want this thing that I'm feeling right now to settle in my body. So that is another piece of that, being aware that it's not worth it to me to have it come and haunt me later. So I'd rather deal with it right now. And she helped me through that time. So, and part of that was writing it down. So again, like it is effective to use your hand and a pen and write things down. And that's why people say, well, can't you put the journal on an app? Can't you have that information on an app? The point is to use your body, use your fingers, your touch, your senses, watch yourself as you write the words down, practice writing the words. It has a mechanical, emotional, neurological effect that's positive.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Can you explain what OOLA is?
OOLA comes from the French word ooh la la, the French expression, ooh la la. So it's according to the OOLA guides, who are the authors of the book OOLA, Find Balance in an Unbalanced World. It is the sense of life being balanced and growing in the 7 key areas. And OOLA breaks down life into 7 F. So the letter F, we have fitness, finance, family, field, faith, friends, and fun. So field being your occupation and faith being whatever it is you believe in that's hopefully something greater than you, something that you're accountable to or that you follow, whether it's a moral code or a religion. Yeah, and friends and fun. So balancing all that, whatever energy you're expending throughout the day probably falls into one of those 7 categories. So I became an OOLA coach so that I could help others also find balance in their life in those 7 key areas and hopefully, again, like level up a little bit, grow, become more aware. Don't waste time on things that are negative. Don't waste time on people or relationships that are negative, financial habits that are negative. Let's keep it all positive and growing and beneficial to you and your loved ones.
I love it. If there's something that you could share with the world, what would it be? You can take as long as you need. That's a hard one.
I think a lot of it is really what we've been talking about. Pay attention to yourself. And there are so many people spinning their wheels or doing something out of obligation or because someone else expects it of them, but knowing yourself and what your desires are, not to be selfish, right? But you are made, your DNA tells you what you like. Whether it's what do you like better, tacos or hamburgers? Like, like you just have these inbred preferences, desires, motivation, and to be fighting that all your life is, I really don't like wasted energy. And I'm not one to do something that doesn't help others while I'm enjoying myself. I enjoy helping others and I enjoy helping people level up, get better, feel better, take on things that they want to do. So I think that just, if I could share something with the world, it would be to encourage people to pay attention to themselves, notice, and then take action.
I think not that men don't experience this, because they do, but I think women have a much harder time focusing on their own self-care and self-love than men in general. I think we feel guilty because we put other people in front of ourselves, our kids, our family, our friends, our loved ones, our coworkers, our bosses, our clients. Everybody else comes first. And I think this is a good reminder that self-care isn't selfish, no matter who you are. In fact, I would argue that self-care is not only not selfish, but it's required for especially people who take care of other people. In our field, that definitely applies.
Mhm.
You know, we went through a global pandemic where, we were very concerned about the frontline workers and the nurses and the firefighters and all those people who were doing their very best to keep our world spinning around properly. And, I think frontline workers and first responders are amazing. And we need to take a lesson from their book and understand that, in order to help heal the world, we have to heal ourselves. And I would almost say we have to heal ourselves first before we can help anybody.
I agree. It's essential that if we're going to help someone else, we should, yeah. Well, you said it. Yeah. We should take care of ourselves so that we can be better helpers and more effective and not break ourselves in the process. How many caregivers end up passing away before the people they're caring for or getting ill? It's important to have that time. And nurses, they're starting in hospital situations and clinical situations to provide spaces for reprieve and self-care for hospital employees. And that's important as well. So I think there are steps being taken, but it's slow, maybe slower than we want.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to mention that we are selling Julie's book, or Julie's journal at Handcrafted Therapy Supply Store. So
Thank you.
It's in stock at our retail center. We encourage you to come in and take a look at the journal and get your copy. We have some events coming up where we are going to help provide some support to people who purchase the journal. And can you tell us a little bit about that?
On May 7th, we're going to be having a discussion about the use of the journal and its benefits. And following that, at some point to be determined, we'll have a little book club. So for people who have purchased the journal, we'll let you know when we're going to get together in person to discuss maybe how it's affected you. If you have questions, comments, testimonials, anything to share, questions or concerns, we'll be there for that purpose.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, our book club is TBD, but we want to sell all the books on the shelves first, all the journals first, and then provide some support to those people who purchase the journals and use them. I know I'll be getting a copy. Hopefully our listeners will too. And then we can reconvene with Julie and maybe ask some questions about what we've learned after we've done a couple of weeks of journaling. Now, how long is the journal's life?
It is 43, which is a strange number of pages, 43 pages, but it can take you as long as necessary. And we are coming out with an actual 90 page book. So it's called Season of Growth. And the whole point is to take you through a full season of your life. So get used to this shorter one. And then we're going to put out the 90-day to get you through exactly 90 days, whether that's a season that you're going through, like a season of grief, perhaps, or trauma or joy. But it can also be a season matching up with the calendar season, spring, summer, winter, fall. So that's how long it is.
So it's 43 pages, which covers how many journaling sessions?
You can break it down. So it's up to you because it's your journal. You can do it day by day and put that kind of pressure and commitment into it. Pressure on yourself, commitment, positive, hopefully keeping it positive. But you can also break it down into tiny pieces. For example, on our supporting website, which is wishingwelljournals.com, Kim is currently doing a 90-day series of audio clips called Journey Through the Journal. So you can catch up with that. All of the audio clips are live on the website. or you can find it on Spotify. And you can listen to one clip every day and go through, kind of maybe take notes on what she's saying or let it absorb into you. And then just take that piece of the journal and work with that for a couple of days. And then add in the next one when you're ready. So it can take as long as you want. You don't have to do it every single day. Like I said, it is your journal and you can use it as you see fit. However, it's going to benefit you the most.
Awesome.
And there's also a space on that website for, I've put a couple blogs up there to add to what Kim has said, some entries, and there are a few more audio clips, but there's also a space for people to ask questions and receive support. There's also a big list of resources. So if you're not sure what kind of music to listen to or how do you doodle, there's a link to a doodling class, different things.
I love it. What are your thoughts on massage therapists actually purchasing, the journals and maybe give them as gifts or charge their clients for these journals? Because I can see where, like we were talking about earlier, there's some special clients that may need a little bit more help in that department.
Encouraging their connection to their body and mind. Yes. Yeah. I think it's a fantastic idea. And that's partly the intention that we had when we wrote it was, let's pass this on to everyone we know. Well, who do I know? I know clients. I mean, that's basically my world, my friends outside of work, and then all my clients. So I think everyone can benefit from this, but of course I'm going to say that. But yeah, and also the therapists themselves, because just like we talked about, let's take care of ourselves so that we can take care of others better. And maybe what we learned through our journaling could help you encourage someone else in theirs.
Yeah, I can see where this would be real helpful for a couple of my clients that are having some problems just connecting the mind-body experience in their lives. And, no judgment. I mean, we all go through stuff where, sometimes our body is the last thing we think about during the day, and give yourself some grace and some kindness, because everybody goes through those days where it just sucks.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And the journal will help encourage, you'll have awareness, but it's a little reminder. Oh, we have a little box in the journal that says, I will move this way, with 3 little sections. You can make it a longer list, but choose 3 ways that you're going to move today in order to feel, and then you fill in the blank. How do you want to feel at the end of the day? Okay, so how are you going to move in order to feel that way? It might be something simple like go for a walk around the block, or it might be practice standing up out of a chair without using my hands to push me up. Or it might be go get a massage. So
there you go. I like it.
Awareness. And also we encourage you to take deep breaths and to take moments in the day to stop and use your senses and be aware of what you're surrounded by at that time.
Any other tips or tricks or anything you want to share with us before you go?
Well, if you got me started, I might not stop, but my tips and tricks are probably in the resources section of the website. So wishingwelljournals.com.
Good. And that in the comments section of our podcast. Good. I'm so proud of you, Julie. I think that what you're doing is incredible and very brave. You're putting out a piece of artwork. Honestly, it's gorgeous.
Yep. It's not my art, but I do agree. It is gorgeous.
Well, it's your idea, which is just beautiful. And so I want to thank you so much for creating such a beautiful journal for all of us to better ourselves and our clients with. And we're so very thankful for you to put in the time and the work that it took to do this, and the energy and the effort. And it sounds like you and Kim are a very dynamic team, and I'm happy to know you both. So thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you very much for your time and your encouragement.
Thank you so much for joining me on the Handcrafted Therapy Podcast. I would love to hear from you. You can email us at podcast@handcraftedtherapy.com. Or you can come by the store. It's at 3303 North Central Expressway, suite number 240 in Plano, Texas, 75023. Or you can connect with me on social, Instagram, Facebook, hashtag Handcrafted Therapy. I'm Julie Alexander, and I wish you a very happy and healthy day.